Hi, and welcome back to Gavin Sonex B. Well, today we are going to tackle the engine baffle. And for those who don't know what an engine baffle is, on most air-cooled um, light aircraft, the engine is cooled by forcing air, generally from the action of the propeller, um, into one compartment above the aircraft, above the engine, um, forcing the air down past the cylinders to cool them, and then attempting to get the air out underneath the engine. So effectively, the the engine fence baffle system splits the area under the cowling into a high pressure area and a low pressure area. The high pressure area being on top of the engine and the low pressure area being underneath the engine. On the Sonex B, the high pressure area above the engine is basically this area across here and down the other side, capped with the cowling. There are two air intakes at the front, either side of the propeller, and the air is forced into this area and contained. The only way it can go out is by going down past the cylinders and coming out underneath the engine. It's then also helped in the fact that the lower cowling has two vent slots in it, one either side, which help to pull the air, suck it out as well. So you've got the propeller pushing air in at the top and the two side vents sucking air out from underneath. And as with all air-cooled engines, temperature is important. If the engine becomes too hot, if the oil becomes too hot, or the cylinders become too hot, ultimately the engine will seize and you fall out of the sky, and that's not good. So getting your cooling right is quite important. And so Sonex have developed over many years the fence baffle kit, and I have it arranged on the bench in front of me. So when you get your kit, you get a lot of pre-made bits. These are all laser cut parts. I don't pretend to know where they all go, apart from that one obviously goes around the oil cooler on top of the engine, and it's probably the place I'm going to start. These have all got to be bent. There's an elegant drawing which shows all the bends, and there are a lot of them. So I'm going to be busy with my bending jig, and there's also a number of parts that they don't supply which you've got to make yourself. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 trim pieces which have got to be cut out of a slab of aluminium that they do supply in the kit. And then there are also 4 mounting brackets which have got to be made from some stock aluminium angle. There's also all the rivets that you require in the kit, and the installation manual. Now I was expecting the installation manual to have some instructions in it, but actually it is just a number of pictures showing you what it should look like when it's all in one piece. Sealing it is an important part of making the baffle. So the baffle, the top edge of the baffle, as it goes around the engine, needs to be trimmed to fit the cowling, which is an interesting concept of how you would actually do that. But they supply a rubber edging strip, quite a large rubber edging strip, which goes around the top edge and helps to seal against the underside of the top cowling cover. So it's not got to be accurate, but it has got to be able to compress that rubber seal to make a good seal. And if there are any gaps in the fence where it goes round cables, pipes, things like that, all those gaps need to be sealed, because every bit of air that escapes is some air that's not going down past the cylinders and not cooling them. And you have to remember that with the turbo, well, with the AeroVs in general, but with the turbo in particular, you're pushing the engine design to its maximum power configuration, and hence it produces much more heat and therefore needs more cooling. You know, those engines originally were designed to be sort of 11, 1300 and then 1600 cc's. We've bored and stroked them out to 2.1 litres and stuffed a turbocharger on it. So it's producing a lot more power, 100 horsepower, whereas originally it would have been down around the sort of 30-40 horsepower range for the original VW engine. And all that heat has got to go somewhere. So cooling is important, getting the fence baffle right is important, getting the entry and exit points in the cowling for the air is important. Probably one of the most important things to do, really, to get it right so the engine stays cool. Anyway, I'm going to have a look at all these bits and I'm going to try and work out where to start and make a few bends. I think it's going to be a question of taking the parts to the engine and bending stuff to fit the engine rather than rigidly following the instructions here, but we'll see. Anyway, I'll busy away and do that, and more later. Well, I've spent 4 hours or so over a couple of days working on the baffles, and this is where I am at the moment. I started with the right hand side and started in the middle at the rear of the engine and have been working my way around, and I'm just about to get back to the center again. And actually it's a bit of a project. Although the parts are laser cut, they haven't been necessarily cut to fit your engine, because they're all a little bit different, and it took me quite a while to get this first part to fit properly. I don't know whether you can see down the bottom there, but it's a really good fit down onto the top of the engine, and that required a lot of fettling to get it there. And I actually had to take some or fired a little bit off that lump of in the center there, off the crankcase, to get it in between the crankcase and the oil cooler. But it's there now and it all fits, and that's good. This part here, the back on the right, beware the set of drawings I've got are incorrect, and there was an update which is available on the Sonex update, drawings update site. They got the bends back to front. This part on the side here was pretty straightforward. Working out the orientation of this part on the front right here to get it bent correctly. There's an error in the drawing actually. It tells you to make this bend at 45 degrees. It should be 90. And I had to do a little bit of fettling around here just to get this to fit back nicely with no gaps around it. And I'm just about to drill and cleco these parts here. I've got to work out what I'm going to do here, whether I'm going to make a little cover plate or I don't know, fill the gaps in with something. The other side looks more difficult because there are a lot more parts for the other side and a lot of little tiny bits. So you've got right, so this one is the one that goes right in the middle underneath the propeller shaft basically. And then we've got these bits here. This is the back plate, which again needs 2 bends put in it, and this bit needs to be folded up as well, and this needs a bend in it as well. I've already pre-bent the side piece ready to go in. This is the front corner part. This hole here is where the dipstick goes. For reference basically, the dipstick is there and that hole is there for the dipstick. But these 2 parts here, I have no idea where they go. I'm sure it will become obvious hopefully once we get there. So I've only found one error on the drawing so far, which is a bend the number of degrees for one of the bends. There are a few dimensions missing, which would be nice to have, but you can actually work it out from the parts themselves. And I suppose at the end of the day, if it was too easy, it wouldn't be worth doing, would it? It's a bit of a challenge. Had to take a few things off because obviously you've got to cut some holes. So I've got to cut for the oil line to go through there. That's got to be cut through. Got to cut a big hole for the intake to go through here. And the plug leads have got to go through, so they've pre-cut a hole down there for the back plug lead at the top, and the front plug lead, I've seen people take them out through approximately there. I don't know, we'll see how that goes. At the front, the oil line from the pump back up to the filler, that's got to go through here. So one of my next tasks is to put a hole in there. It's got to be a big hole because I've got to be able to get the nuts through it, because I've already made up the pipe. I'm been looking online, and I'm going to use some, because obviously we've got to cut holes for things to go through. There's leads for the oil pressure sender and the oil temperature sender as well. So there's a number of things that have got to go through this baffle. So I've been looking online at silicon grommets, high temperature silicon grommets, because rubber ones will probably, if they don't melt, they'll go brittle and fall apart with the heat. So silicon seems to be a good idea. So I'm looking at that at the moment, see if I can find some of those. Oh, and then of course you've got to cut a hole for the oil breather. Going back, that's going to be going through the baffle on this side. So there's a few holes you've got to kind of work out where they are and cut those. But apart from that, it's pretty straightforward. As I say, I'm waiting to find out where this goes. The instructions, not that there are any, well, there are some very brief instructions on the corner of the main drawing here. There's a 5 points. Basically, put it together and cleco it, and then screw and rivet it. But as I said earlier, there is actually a document that says installing the AeroV fence baffle. I have found this to be not much use, because for one, I reckon the photographs were taken probably 30 years ago. Certainly before the latest incarnation of the AeroV, and a long time before the AeroV Turbo, because when you look at the pictures, the engine is similar but not the same, and looks like an earlier version of. And hence the fence baffle is, well, it's not completely different, but it's different. It's not the same as the what you get in the kit, and I can't honestly see a good reason for putting an out-of-date manual in a box with all these new parts. So, and to be quite honest, looking at it, it wasn't a particularly good job. There's a lot of pictures of bird off edged screws and rivets that actually aren't seating down properly, and screws that don't quite fit. That one's been, somebody's got over enthusiastic and messed up the head on that one. It's not the best, and if you look at these parts here which you've got to make, they're not particularly well cut out, and you see where it doesn't quite fit there, and it doesn't sit down right, and it's just not a particularly good job. But there we go. Perhaps I should send them the pictures of mine when I've finished, and they could put them in there instead. Or am I just being facetious? There we go. Anyway, so it's a project. I'm enjoying it. Get to bend stuff with my bender, which is great. Helps to justify the fact that it takes up so much space in the garage. And drilling holes, clecoing things together, feels like I'm building an airplane again. So as I say, I've spent probably 4, maybe even 5 hours so far to get halfway around, trying to work out how everything fits together and how it's supposed to fit together, and make it as good a fit as I possibly can, so that as much of the air on the top of the engine goes down past the cylinders and doesn't spill out. around the outside. Also been having a look at the cowling instructions, because got to start doing that, because the baffle has to be cut and fitted to the underside of the cowl, and I've got no idea how I'm going to do that, but anyway, we'll find out when we get there. What else have I been looking at? Oh yes, the cowling instructions. I'm hopefully, I think I'm going to use my 3D printer again. There's a little tool that you have to make to do the cowling, which when the propeller's not on there, it fits on the front of the propeller hub here in place of the propeller, and is made to a certain size with a certain rebate on it, so that you can accurately position the front edge of the cowling. In fact, you should have some screw holes in it, and to make it easy, you screw the front edge of the cowling to this former to get everything cut nicely and fitting nicely at the back end. Normally you cut it out of a piece of wood or a couple of bits of wood. I thought, well, seeing as I've got a drawing for it, I'm just going to put that drawing onto the computer and print myself one, which would be good. So that's what I'm going to do. So that's where we are at the moment with the fence baffle, and I'm quite pleased with the progress so far. Anyway, more later.